Hi guys, Martin here, coming to you with my inbox review for my next build, and that's going to be the Revell Messerschmitt BF109G-10 Erla, 132 scale. This is Revell's new tooled kit in 2014. It's kit number 04888. As you can see, I bought it for $27.50, although I had a $5 off coupon, so I did get this for $22, which in England is about £13.50, £14.50. Anyway, the box art shows a plane that was flown by the ace of aces German Luftwaffe pilot, Erich Hartmann, known as Bubby to his comrades, and he was the ace of aces with the highest victories, claimed and recorded victories, 352 in total. And that won him the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross with oaks, leaves, swords and diamonds. The BF109G-10 was the fastest of the G series. It had the new Daimler DB605D inverted V engine, which was rated at 1850 horsepower, which produced a speed of 426 miles per hour. Did have problems though with that speed, the undercarriage, with it being narrow, thin tyres. If the pilots accelerated, if they weren't skilled and they accelerated too quickly, those wheels would turn through 90 degrees and flip the plane, which caused the death of a few, the untimely death of a few unfortunate pilots. But anyway, enough of the waffle, let's get on with the review. So nice artwork showing Bubby Hartmann's plane, which is the one I'm going to do. It offers two different versions. We've got some pictures on the side here, box art showing the engine cowling, upper cowling with the propeller spinner, the white spiral, the two machine guns inside the cockpit, and then the undercarriage and the drop tank, and then the tail, the vertical stabilizer, which for the G series was made out of wood. That was all wood, that back end vertical tail. So let's have a look. And because it was wood instead of the aluminum, it made it heavier. And with it being tail heavy, they had to put counterbalance weights in the front end of the aircraft. What do we have in the box? Let's have a look. Okay. Instruction booklet, always black and white with Revell, never colour. How many pages do we have? 13, 14, 15, 16 pages. The last 3 pages are blank, so it goes up to page 13. First page, as always, history about the plane in German first and then English second. Some technical data and specifications, and then some read before you start notes, warnings and how to do stuff. Typical symbols used in the assembly instructions, and then colour call outs listed A to V, giving the Revell numbers only. And then we have the sprue charts here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 of those, 6, 2 of those 8, 2 of those 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 sprues. So 13, no, they're clear, so 12 grey sprues, 2 light sprues. And then how many assembly sections do we have? Starts here, number 1 with the cockpit, and it goes all the way through to 75. So there's 75 sections of assembly instructions. The final assembly being just adding the antenna cables, and also if you have the cockpit in the open position, to add a cable to support it in the open position. Just a quick run through the instructions. The plastics, what I'm more interested in, to see the quality and see what value we're getting for money. So as always, it starts with the internal cockpit, the flooring, the foot pedals, the control panel, control stick, the rear bulletproof shield behind the pilot seat, and then 2 internal wall sections with the details on that are glued inside each half of the fuselage. Then the instrument panel, which has the gun sight, and then some decals to put onto the instrument panel. But it does look as though it's got raised detail for painting if you want to do that. So then it goes on to the tub assembly, just assembling everything together. And then gluing what looks like wing spar on the bottom of brace to strengthen the wings. And putting the bulletproof hood behind the pilot's head. And then it's going on to the tailplane, hydraulic cylinder for the rear wheel assembly, and the axle assembly in 17, and then it goes to the exhausts for the starboard and port side, putting those in, and then this looks like, I don't know whether that's a light or something that's being inserted into the port side fuselage there, and then it's showing machine guns inserted into the upper engine cowling. And then it moves on to assembling the tub inside the fuselage halves, and the bottom engine cowling, and the front machine cannon that goes through the nose, through the spinner. But what I'm not seeing an engine. Oh dear. So this kit doesn't come with an engine assembler. Alright then. It's just an empty front end. So then it goes on to the side filter, air filter that goes on the side of the engine cowling, and then underneath air intakes, air filters again for the air cooler, oil cooler intakes, and then it moves on to the undercarriage areas. It looks like the wings, upper wings, are split into 2 sections. These are the 2 upper sections that join out the wing roots to the fuselage, and it looks like the upper area of the wheel wells there. So they're assembled, and then some of the inside walls of the wheel wells are assembled then. And then it moves on to putting some part into the other upper wing assembly area. No, that's the lower wing. That's the full size lower wing. Next page, moving on. Oh, there's the decals, let's put those aside. Number 30 is assembling the bottom wings to those upper wing sections, and then there's some inner walls that are put inside the bottom wings before that's assembled, and then the end upper wing parts are assembled then. And then it moves on to the vertical stabilizer rudder, which is all wood on the real plane. Looks like that's posable, like you can move it. It says no glue on this area, on the hinge area. And then we move on to, yeah, we've got some flaps here as well for the horizontal stabilizers. 2 are the front stabilizers and then the rear flaps. And again, not to glue those flaps, they latch on and hinge. And then it goes back to the tailplane, put in an hydraulic cylinder actuator for the rudder, then add in the stabilizers, the horizontal stabilizers, then put in the rear wheel in place. And then it moves on to flaps for the front wings, upper and lower halves. There'll be 2 of those, and then ailerons, upper and lower halves, assembling those, and again not gluing them to the wing assembly because they can move, they're posable. And then we've got the leading edge slats that can be closed or in the open position. I'll probably pose them in the open position. And then it's showing wingtip lights, but I won't do that until the plane's painted. They were the last things that go on. And then it's showing moving on to the front wheel axle struts, and then putting on the undercarriage bay doors covers. And from there we go on to the wheel assemblies, and then assemble those to their corresponding axles, and then it moves on to the drop tank, putting the drop tank onto its fuselage assembly mounting, and then assembling that to the underside of the fuselage, and then it goes onto pitot tubes and some aerial looking thing that hangs off the bottom, and then it goes to the cockpit, what looks like actuators for the canopy, and then putting on the front canopy window, the rear aerial, the circular aerial mast, and then the canopy. And there's two versions of canopy, that's the closed version and the open version, and then the bulletproof shield that's glued into there that goes behind the pilot's head, and mounting an aerial onto the canopy frame as well. And then it's shown to do a stretch sprue method, cutting a piece off 11mm that goes on the underside there. And then it moves on to section 69, which is the propeller assembler. The blades come in separate parts, they're mounted to the back rear part of the spinner, and there's a front part that locks them in place before the spinner itself is located. As you can see, there's an hole through the spinner because there was a cannon, 30mm cannon on these planes that protruded through the front of the spinner. And then it's showing here if you want the wheels up, mounted up, that's the assembly for the up style, and then putting them in, but I will ignore that. I'm going to put my wheels down as I always do. And then the final section is adding the antenna wire and the support cable for the canopy in the open position, if that's the way you want to show it. And then the next page shows, the next two pages show the two different colour versions, decal locations, colour callouts. I'm going to be doing this one, as I said, which is Major Eric Hartmann's plane from JG52, April 1945. The other version is a JG300 Praha Kibele AB, May 1945. And that's it for the instructions. So typical Revell, black and white. Be nice if these are in colour because there's a lot of shades on the mottling here. Be nice to see it in colour, it'd help it make it more easily to define the colours. And as I said, the last 3 pages are blank. So let's put that aside, push those sprues out of the way, we'll have a quick look at the decals. Alright, same printed in Italy. They look really nice, very smooth. I'm not seeing any carrier film whatsoever. The only carrier film we have is inside the crosses that is translucent on the craft. It's not painted. The only part that's painted are the black corners and the white corners. And but with Revell decals, I've never had any issues with carrier film. It's always disappeared. They're the black and white decals that go on the front, the spinner, the propeller area. I won't be using that. That's the band for the second version, and so is the Yellow 7. But these look really nice, and they're very thin, and they're more of a matte, but there is a slight satin sheen, but it's more matte, and no carrier film whatsoever around these. They look really nice, so I think they're going to go on great. I don't think I'm going to have a problem with those. If I haven't said so, this kit was tooled in 2014, so it's brand new tooling last year, and there's 147 parts in total on the sprues. Let's see how many bags of sprues we got. We got a big bag here with 3 light grey sprues. The next big bag has 3 light grey sprues. Then we have 2 smaller bags with 3 small sprues in each, and they're identical. They're 2 off each, so we'll only look at one of those. And then we have a bag of clear sprues as well, and there's 2 sprues in there, clear sprues in there. So let's move to the let's take a look at these sprues. But before we do, I'm about to cut out of time. It's coming up to the 15 seconds, so we're going to take a slight intermission and then we'll look at the sprues. Bear with me, guys. Okay guys, so I'm back. Now we're going to look at the grey sprues. So I'll start with the big bag, and in here we have 3 screws. These bags are taped down. I'd already undone the tape, so better than the it's a better idea method than what Tammy used. Tammy always used a couple of staples. Oh, just a minute, the camera slipped. Alright. The Tammy used staples, which if you don't pull them out and you just pull the bag apart, can scratch your parts if you drag them out against those staples. So I prefer the bags taped. Or I'm looking at the port side, and is the port side fuselage off, and it's got fine recessed panel lines in there, some rivet detail around there, access panel. This is the air filter intake there, a cutout for the exhaust, and then the wing roots there. I'm looking for flash and I'm not seeing any. These areas where we have what are called shut-offs in a mould tool to create an opening feature, as one half of the mould comes down and the other half comes up the core half. You have 2 areas of steel that lock out against each other, so where the steel locks out, material can't flow, and therefore it creates an opening. And those features over time tend to wear and have to be replaced with steel inserts. And this is brand new tooling, so I wouldn't expect to see any flash, and if it did, it'd be a sign of a poorly made tool mould. And there's no flash whatsoever in these shutouts. They look really crisp and clean. We've got the bulkhead here behind the pilot seat, and that contains the seat belts, if you can see those. And we have the drop tanks that have nice recessed panel lines, and then the latch features for mounting onto the plate that mounts to the underside of the fuselage. This looks like the floor to the cockpit. And then there's the instrument panel, which has engraved detail on it, so I guess the option to paint it or add decals is there. Got the control stick there, and then this is a part that goes inside the it's a throttle lever, I think, throttle levers that go inside the starboard or port side fuselage off. And then there's the seat bucket, and then the bulletproof head rest that goes behind the pilot's head. And then they look like the front leading edge slats on the wings. But I'm not seeing any flash door. These look like really beautiful crisp mouldings, just like the Arado for the Revell Germany kit I made prior. But I'm not seeing any problems with those. So I'm going to go straight onto the starboard side, mirror image, and again, beautiful crisp mouldings, nice fine recessed panel lines, no flash in these shut off areas, no flash here where it shuts off. We've got the exhaust stacks there. Here's the brace that goes for the wings across the bottom of the cockpit tub to support the wing assemblies. And then we have the undercarriage covers, and then we have the upper wing off, the wing tip off, with the slot there to put the leading slats in, leading edge slats. And again, they look like really nice mouldings. So I'm going to move on to the, oh, and here we have, look, 2 different wheel covers. That's for, I'd guess, for the closed version. There's no detail on the inside, but the open version, you've got all this nice detail. These pressed sheet metal sunken in with rivet details, so that's a nice feature. So let's move on to the 3rd sprue, and this is the bottom wing parts of the openings for the wheel wells. These are the 2 internal fuselage sections that have details on them, and some parts are mounted to those. There's a spinner with the hole through for the 30mm cannon. Now that does have some flash in there if you have a look, if you can see that. That's not shut off properly, there's a bit of flash there. This is the rear spinner that the propeller blades are mounting into, and then there's a piece that goes on to lock them in, and then the spinner goes on top. But again, apart from that flash inside the spinner there, everything else looks really clean. These underwing parts, I don't know if you can see that, apart from the panel lines, they have rivet details as well all around those panel lines. But they didn't do it on the upper wings, it's just panel lines. So no rivet detail on the upper, only on the bottom. Maybe that's how it works. Oh, no, but you'd still see it. Okay, let's move on. Alright, and then we've got ailerons here and flaps, flap details, upper and lower. And they all look good. So I'm going to move on. That's that bag done. That's those 3 parts. So I'll put them with that bag so they don't get mixed up. And we'll go on to the next 3 biggest sprues. Excuse me. And I'll start with the larger of those 3. And here we have the upper engine cowling with the 2 machine gun ports. And then we have some air intake covers here. Radiator mount that goes up beneath there. And then we have what looks like the rear rudder. And the, as I said earlier, the rear vertical stabiliser rudder was made of wood. These are the 2 upper inboard wing sections, and they're bubbled for the wheel assemblies. And then there's the 2 halves of the air filter intake that goes on the side of the cowling, engine cowling. And again, these parts look really nice. Nice detail on the rudder, nice recessed panel lines on the cowlings. And I'm not seeing any ejector pin stress marks or anything visible that would make them look unsightly. So the second sprue out of that bag, and this looks like 2 halves for that could be the rudder as well. I think that is the rudder. So what was the other part? Although that looks like a rudder. Is there 2 versions of rudder? I don't know. Well, anyway, let's move on. Some panels here. I'm not sure what they are. Oh, it looks like these go around the wheel assembler because there's a circular feature on the inside. But again, these parts look really crisp. There's the rear wheel axle that comes down, and then the rear wheel clips inside that horseshoe shape. And we got the aerial there, and what looks like the pitot tube. But yeah, I'm moving on. They all look like good parts to me. And then here's the 3rd one out of there. Here's another rear wheel axle, so I guess there's 2 versions. There's the circular aerial mount, the wheel struts, headrest, on pilot's headrest there, and then these are probably the rear horizontal stabilizer flaps. And then we've got some little actuators, and I think these are the mounts that go inside the cockpit area. So that's that one. So that's those, and as I say, we have 3 sprues in here, 2 bags, they're identical. So we'll just open the one bag and have a quick look at these. This one's open. Alright, the larger one of those 3. We've got what look like, they look like the rear flaps on the horizontal stabilizers to me, and they're probably the front stabilizers. And we've got 2 halves of tyres with the hub, wheel hubs here, rear wheel half, and then counterbalance weights that come off the bottom of the flaps, wing flaps. And then we have some switches, control mechanisms that go inside the cockpit. And again, these all look crisp, nice crisp parts. So I'm happy with those, the way they look. And again, here's another wheel, main wheel. These have wheels on, and wheels look really nice. There's no flash on the shut-off areas. They've got nice tread detail on there. And there's a wheel hub. I guess one wheel style is for when it's in the flying position, the wheels are back, and one sort for when the wheels are down. And there's two of the propeller blades. Now there'll be one place where you'd expect to see flash because of the 3-dimensional surfacing on that part line. Two halves of the mould have to come down and shut off and have the same profile to lock off around this cavity area so no flash occurs. And I'm not seeing any, so that's a nice bit of moulding, having those two opposing 3D surfaces shut off on each other. But nice detail on the tyres, nice tread detail. So that's it. We'll move on to the clear part sprues now. And these sprues are lettered, and on my still images you'll see them in order. These are the last two, sprue O and sprue P. Sprue P contains two clear canopies. One is for the closed position and one is for the open position. And then we have the front window there, and then we have a bulletproof shield. Goes behind the pilot's head. And then we have wingtip lights. And there's some tubing here that goes inside the cockpit. And we also have the gun sight there as well. But these parts look really clear, and they're nice and thin. Put my hand behind them. Yeah, these look clear. They look very nice. So I have no complaints. I got the ejector pins on the outside there. Those slugs are for the ejector pins to come underneath and push the parts out. It's a way of getting those parts out of the mould without getting ejector pin witness marks on clear parts, which you don't want. And the gate position where the material flows in has obviously been put into a predetermined position by using mould flow analysis to prevent getting a knit line at the last point of fill. The material's flowing in a sense that it fills right on the bottom edge, so you don't see a knit line where the two flow fronts might come together. So I'm really happy with the way this kit looks, and if it's as good as the Arado, I think I'm going to have a good time building it. So that's it. If you stuck with me for the 30 minutes this review has been, well, thanks for sticking around, and I hope you're going to follow me on with this build. This build is going to be my second entry into the 1/32 scale Big Bird Buddy build that Jermaine Oskin is hosting. His YouTube name is 8 Foot Iceman, and he's hosting this on the International Scale Modelers Forum, and it's the same group build that I entered my Arado for, and I will be doing a diorama for these two planes as well that are going to go together in the diorama, and I'll also include it in my own group build that I'm hosting, and that's for the Love of Freddy group build. So that's it, guys. That's what I'm moving on with next. These parts are going to get washed, and then I'll start it on Monday because my weekend's going to be busy. So I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks again, guys. Thanks for all the nice comments on my last build, and I'll see you around soon with my first update on this build. Keep up the great work, guys, and I look forward to seeing your builds too. Have a great weekend. Tally-o, chocks away.